So, job done. Arsenal go to Fratton Park and beat Portsmouth 4-1 in the FA Cup round, third round game. And this was a good response. A response after Liverpool, after the noise and difficult couple of hours for certain players. And the scoreline tells one story, but the performance, tells a little bit more. Welcome to the Gooner Pavilion. This is the Arsenal debrief after the Portsmouth versus Arsenal game. Three things that Arsenal did well, and three things that Arsenal can improve. Let's get into it. Okay, let's start with the obvious. All Arsenal goals came from set piece situations, corners, second faces, rehearsed moments. This is by design. I know a lot of people have talked about how sustainable this is for Arsenal, but it is pretty sustainable. We're more than halfway through the season, and it is a consistent plan for Arsenal to rely on a tool that you can rely on when things are not going on well, and that's set pieces to sort of settle everyone down, calm down the nerves and just get back to doing what you initially planned to do in the game. So Arsenal finished that game with 8 corners, 6 big chances, and an XG of 2.89, up from 1.56 at halftime. Um, the doubling of the XG really tells you everything, right? At halftime, Arsenal were creating, but they were not cutting. Second half, they became ruthless. And against a championship side that's facing relegation, this was to be expected, right? So that was the first up for me. Second up, definitely Gabriel Martinelli's. And listen, it was Gabriel Martinelli's night, especially what can only be categorized as a very, very difficult number of days and some really reckless comments, from ex-players. Understandably, I don't know whether it is, maybe because they're on TV, they always have to say the most vicious, statements and things like that to create the narrative and keep themselves in the spotlight, because it's all week. Everyone is talking about Gary Neville, Roy Keane, and all the other ones who are jumping in and having their say, about something that was blown completely out of proportion. But back on the pitch, because Martinelli did the right thing, he apologized to Conor Bradley, and he decided to show his response on the pitch was exactly what you want to do, and hopefully that just puts everything, away. And it's a shame Conor Bradley is injured. I understand that he's out for the end till the end of the season, but that was Martinelli's fault at all. And so while we wish him well, I think the vitriol of Martinelli was largely over the top, and some people just need to calm down. Okay, so back to this game: a hat trick from Martinelli, two headers from a corner, and an instinctive back post finish when Gabriel Jesus crossed that ball, whipped that ball in. I do have a theory about Gabriel Jesus and his, what should we say, his aversion to being inside the box sometimes. It almost feels like he's allergic to being in the box. But anyway, that's a different thing. It wasn't how he scored the goals. What really impressed me was the fact that it wasn't just wide left, wide dribble, and all of that and score. But he got himself in really, really good positions, for those goals. And, it's not something that I have seen regularly from Martinelli, and I hope that he can add this, to his game, arriving at the right moment, at the right time, to make that last action that is very, very telling. The aggressive near post runs from the corners, for the two headers, the back post anticipation for that ball from Gabriel Jesus, and just attacking second balls. I think this is what we want Martinelli to be doing. And hey, listen, if this competition between Trossard is bringing out the best of Martinelli, long may that continue, in my opinion. He did also hit the woodwork in that game, and he called one just wide after a brilliant through ball. I think he also slipped as well in that effort. But all in all, let's be honest, after the week he's had, after the noise and all of that, this was the perfect response. Okay, third up for me, it was Arteta's in-game control. Hey, listen, those of you that have watched me on this channel before, You know that it took me a while to come around to Mikel Arteta, and one of those things was around, his in-game management, and hey, I mean, what do I know? I'm not a coach or anything like that, but I felt like, his in-game management in this particular game was very calm. It was analytical, and it was a good example of Mikel Arteta managing a cup tie that could have spiraled, into a bit of chaos. So first half rotated the back four, and you could tell, you could see, people were very uncertain about their positioning, uncertainty a number of times, Norgard was kind of caught in between, whether he needs to be part of back line or if he needs to be stepping up into the midfield. And, a lot of that comes from practice. When you put a back four that had wide Norgard, Gabriel, and Miles Lewis Kelly, who've hardly really played together, then you add Kepper in goal. I think you must expect some kind of, mismatch in chemistry. But they took a while for them to start to settle down into the game. And listen, the introduction of Kai Havertz, actually quite funny because I know a lot of people have been on the train against Gyökeres, and everyone's been waiting for Kai Havertz to come in. But Kai Havertz came in and was nothing. He didn't play up front at all. He sort of went into that, sort of wide left, and a couple of times drifted into the middle. A little bit like what Kai Havertz, tends to do as well. So, and the numbers, just back up, his introduction and how that kind of changed the game. The ball retention improved. The passing tempo also increased as well, and the final third decisions sharpened by the introduction of Kai Havertz. I know Mikel Arteta is always very, very excited about Kai Havertz, but it's just something that sometimes I just find very comical because I know a lot of Arsenal fans be having a go at him when he doesn't score goals, but these strikers are doing a lot more for Mikel Arteta than score goals. I know that's not what we want to hear, but I think that's just the reality of it. Our possession stats, accuracy, 84% pass accuracy, 61% possession. And that structure really allowed Arsenal to control the final 30 minutes. So I think that's progress. I think that's definitely progress. So kudos to Mikel Arteta on that. Okay, as we normally do on this show, we got to talk about things that Arsenal need to improve. So three down for me. First, that open play cutting edge. And listen, we created four big chances in that first half, and Arsenal just had one shot on target, before the break. Portsmouth had six shots and four on target. They were all over Arsenal like a bad rash. But this is expected in a cup tie. When a team is playing at home, nothing else is going good for them any other way. Here comes Arsenal rolling into town. I didn't expect anything less, from Portsmouth. Check out my preview on this Portsmouth, versus Arsenal game. I did predict this. I did say that, that stadium is going to be loud, and Portsmouth are going to start furiously into the game. So, listen, they did that, but, I was always wondering, can they sustain that for 90 minutes? And clearly, they could not. Even Arteta said in his post-game reaction that, Arsenal were exceptional at creating situations, but just lacked the knife. So it's still a theme, But well, hey, you can't be the perfect team, right? I think this team, every single game we're just seeing a little bit of their character, their resilience, and what they keep improving time after time. We've got Chelsea, so we've got to buckle up, finishing our chances. But maybe that might change. Second thing for me, where Arsenal need to improve. That's my second down is the slow settling and rotational effect. This felt like a team that was still having cobwebs from that Liverpool game, even though a large number of the team that were on the pitch didn't play in that game. But sometimes it's very very hard to shake a sort of an emotion that everybody is feeling, because even though those players were not on the pitch, they were on the bench, they were also sharing the emotion of the players, especially that last minute, chance that Gabriel, missed and could have gone into a goal. Everybody, was completely gutted from that. So you got to look at the emotional and psychological impact of all of that. Um, Portsmouth, in that 20 minutes, use counters a lot, and the trade-off with rotation, I imagine, is just that the fact that the chemistry is not always brilliant, and that's the trade-off. That is the trade-off. It's not criticism; it's just context. So it does reinforce why the spine really matters. And players like Gabriel, like Raya, like Saka, are really, really important, especially in knockout football. All of those players I expect to return on Wednesday against Chelsea. Third down for me, let's talk about Miles Lewis Kelly. My WhatsApp group, he was absolutely getting lots of pelters, for his performance in that game. And, I understand that everyone is talking about the fact that he had a bad performance, but could I reframe it? He had a learning performance in that game. He finished with one of the lower ratings, for all the players on the pitch, and at times you could see that he was struggling to find his rhythm. And whatever that is, he's a 19-year-old player that is still developing. He's not the finished article. Come on, guys. He played an incredible season last season, playing in the Champions League semi-final and scoring a goal against Man City. One of the best goals that we scored last season, as well. At 19-year-old, you can't know everything about football. So, today he looked a little bit shaky. He made a few couple of unforced errors. But, having said all that, though, he took a quick free kick that actually directly led to a Martinelli goal. So it wasn't all that bad. And I know sometimes it's just very difficult to kind of see some of the good things that the players do in the heat of the moment. But, he still, contributed. And, Arteta praised him for stepping up and taking chances. And that's development, not failure. I still, something about Miles Lewis Kelly's game that I really like is the fact that he does want the ball and does want to go on against players, step out a little bit. And sometimes, today it just didn't work out, but we've seen him do that, so many times in the past. So I believe that he's got that in him and the ability to do that. Listen, in cup games, it's all about the outcomes. It's all about, what you do to move to the next round. Arsenal did just that. Rotating a squad. Our typical formation is 4-3-3. You've got youth and squad players playing. And then we finished the game with more experience on the pitch, better spacing, faster final ball execution. And I think that's the story, of this game. So, guys, this was a good tune-up, I would say. Not a perfect one, but another cup game to just get us back into that mode. We go again on Wednesday against Chelsea. We're through now to the fourth round, so let's see who Arsenal gets. I think Wednesday will be a completely different test. I think everyone knows that Chelsea have got a new manager. Everyone's be out to impress. So they will not allow Arsenal to grow into this game. No question about that. I don't know, is Cucurella allowed to be played in that game? I think that would be interesting. So next game, guys, don't forget to check out my preview of that Chelsea Arsenal game in the League Cup. And also don't forget to also check our previous channel as well. And I do appreciate all of you for watching the channel and sticking up until now. If you've got this far, why don't you hit that subscribe button? It would really do so much, for this channel that is growing. Hit that like button as well, and that just, tells the YouTube algorithm that, hey, there's some good content here and for other Arsenal fans. So whatever you do this evening, have a good night. I'm off now to watch the NFL, and I'll see you guys at the next one.